Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to an EAN Summit. If you've been to one before, welcome to your first one. If this is your first time here, my name, for those of you who don't know me, is Cara Robechek. I'm the Deputy Director and Network Manager at Energy Action Network. And I get to spend a few minutes just grounding us all in a little bit of the background of Energy Action Network itself. Probably most of you know this, but EAN's mission is to achieve Vermont's climate and energy commitments in ways that create a more just, thriving, and sustainable future for Vermonters. And EAN really has two main roles in the state of Vermont. As a nonprofit organization, we're probably best known for our deep data gathering and analysis, which we present each year in an annual progress report for Vermont. We also host other research papers, webinars, a really great summer internship program, and the Leveraging Change Speaker Series. And we bring our presentations to venues around the state. Today we are very, very excited to be unveiling our most recent annual progress report for Vermont, as well as a new research paper that looks at Vermont's climate responsibility through a comparative analysis of per capita emissions. More on that very soon. So our other role in the state is convening this broad network of, we're a backbone organization, convening this broad network of organizations, businesses, utilities, and institutions of higher learning. This is just a small sample of the logos for some of those members on the slide. And we work very closely with many public sector partners, again, a small sample of which are shown on this slide. So I decided to take a look back at EAN history, and I know this barely shows up, for which I apologize, but EAN's history goes back to 2009, when a group of Vermonters came together to address the reality of climate change, the risk to Vermont's economy of continued dependence on fossil fuels, and the economic and technological opportunity presented by transitioning to a sustainable energy future. Recognizing that no single organization had the power to enact rapid, large-scale systems change, the group embarked on a systems mapping process, thus this very hard to see graphic, with over 60 thought and action leaders from all aspects of the energy sector. The work led to broad agreement on an ambitious goal. Vermont should meet 80% of its 2030 energy needs through renewable energy and increased efficiency. Later, this goal will be updated to 90% renewable by 2050. So I have a question. How many of you in this room were at some of those initial meetings in 2009 and 2010? Would you either raise your hand or stand up? All right. And I ask a request of you. I have no photographs from those early days, so if any of those exist, I would love to get some photographs from those early days. But I did go back in the archives, and I found some photos from the early EAN summits in 2013 and 2014, which was very soon after the backbone nonprofit organization was started to support EAN's work. And I was able to find some photos of a lot of the same people who are going to be here today. Some of you guys have been doing this work for quite a while. Or maybe I should say that some of us have been doing this work for quite a while. I had fun looking through this photo from the 2014 EAN Summit, which is unfortunately presenting a little bit dark. But I can see some of the same people who are here today doing this work. Rebecca Ellis, Gabrielle Stebbins, Johanna Miller, Lee Seddon, Lori Fielder, and myself, about 6 years before I came to work here at EAN. So who is EAN? I'm going to have you all get up and do a little stretch for a moment. So if you've ever served on EAN's board of directors or been on EAN's staff, would you stand up right now? Yay! Okay, if you have ever shared data with EAN as part of the development of our annual progress report for Vermont or helped us with some analysis, would you stand up right now? Yay! If you've ever been part of one of the EAN network action teams, would you please stand up right now? Yay! We have a fabulous group of folks who come together and have some really deep discussions and analysis and help us with a lot of our work, who are called EAN Senior Fellows. If you are an EAN Senior Fellow, will you stand up right now? Not that kind of senior, Christy. All right, 2 more. If you've ever attended a previous summit or a Leveraging Change Speaker Series event or EAN webinar, please stand up now. Most of the room. And if you've ever read the EAN report or used our graphics for analysis, please stand up now. Yay! All right. Thank you all for being willing to engage in a little standing up. So when everyone registered for the event, you agreed to a couple of things, and I thank you all for agreeing to these. The first one is just that everyone, the summit is open to anyone who supports EAN's mission, which I've already said. You can read it if you'd like to again. And we also ask that everyone commit to engaging in respectful and civil discourse. Disagreement is fine. We just, our organization likes to engage respectfully with one another, even in disagreement. And that's included an agreement not to record other participants without their express permission. With that said, we do have some of the media here, and we're very glad to have some of the media here. So everything on the podium was being recorded, both by EAN and by some folks from the media. So just great to have them here and to be aware of that. So that brings us to today. You probably all got an agenda when you walked in. If you didn't, you can go and get one. But we're going to start out by hearing about our new annual progress report. We have a very exciting panel of statewide leaders who will be speaking about climate and energy leadership for Vermont this morning as well. In the afternoon, it will be our honor to present 2 EAN annual awards. And then we have 2 more panels. One is on funding climate action in Vermont, and the other is on the plans and priorities for network action teams. And we'll close with a few words for the network at the end of the day. And then we have a reception and dinner. We hope many of you will stay. It's going to be a beautiful evening. You can stay as long as you want, and we can enjoy this beautiful place. So, no pitches? Those of you who have been to summits recently know that we have a pitch process every year where people bring new ideas to the network for things that we can work on together. That process would have been happening through July of this year, people coming together to plan those pitches. The climate crisis had a little bit of a different plan for us. So we ended up not having pitches coming to the network this year, which is not a bad thing necessarily, because as a network and the board of directors have been discussing for a while, how do you give enough attention to the network action teams you already have versus bringing in new ideas? So we're excited to keep working with the network action teams we already have. And sorry not to have pitches this year, but it's okay. We have plenty to do with our current network action teams. And we are also committed to continuing making space for new and ongoing conversations that are on topics of interest to the network. And that will start with the agenda tomorrow. So for those of you who can stay, our plan for tomorrow is to be very discussion-based and conversational, and to dig deeper into conversations leading to action steps for the coming year. So we're going to have a carefully curated agenda where we're going to share what we already know is working well in Vermont and other jurisdictions. We're going to gather together some ideas of resources we already know exist. And then we're going to start discussing how we can match what needs to be done with the resources that are available, and brainstorming some next steps for the network action teams and the network. And these are the specific topic areas that we're going to dive in on. We're going to be sitting at tables with the different network action teams and themes that we work on, and we're going to talk about funding and finance. How can Vermont really access all of the available funding for climate and energy initiatives? And then we're going to take a pause, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how do we deploy those dollars? How do we actually get the work done? And that's more on the communications and program design side of things. If you're not registered for tomorrow, you have time to be here tomorrow morning, we would love to have you. We may not have enough food for you, but we would very much love to have you in the room. We will have seats at the table. And we will also be reviving the Leveraging Change speaker series and setting up other opportunities for dialogue in the coming year. So we hope you'll join us for those as well. My final note is that as in past events, we will do our Q&A at every panel, at every presentation using the app Slido. And the reason we do this is you either on the back of your agenda, using this QR code, or going to slido.com on any phone or computer, and then putting in the code EAN 2023. You can type your questions in as a panel is going, you can type your questions in as a speaker is speaking, and then people can upvote the questions they're most interested in. And what that lets us do is sort of curate the questions so that the questions that get asked are the ones that most people are most interested in and not just the first person who shoots their hand up. If anyone doesn't have the technology, we can get you some Post-it notes to write down questions as well, or you can ask your neighbor to put it in their phone. The questions are anonymous, it does not necessarily have a name attached to it, but we'd love to hear the questions that most people want answered. Okay, and with that, I am very happy to introduce my two colleagues, Jared Duval and Liz Steer, to come and introduce our annual progress report for Vermont.